We're going tomorrow, Mom. I've sold your beach house. I remember standing there in the kitchen, holding the coffee mug like it could keep me steady. My daughter-in-law had said it so casually, as if it were just another piece of news, but it hit me like a wave. I smiled because that's what I always do, but inside, my chest felt heavy and tight. I wanted to cry. I wanted to scream, but I just nodded and said, "All right." It was always easier to smile than to show the heartbreak that lurked beneath. The beach house had been in my family for generations. My parents built it, my children grew up there, and every summer was filled with laughter, sandcastles, and the scent of salt in the air. It was more than just walls and furniture. It was memories, love, and a life slowly stitched together over decades. I could see her eyes flicker, maybe expecting me to argue or beg, but I didn't. I couldn't. Deep down, I knew I had to let go. Life had a way of moving forward, whether we were ready or not. I wanted to hold on, but the gentle tide of time kept pulling me toward acceptance. I poured myself another cup of coffee, the steam rising slowly, carrying with it the sense of home. I let myself feel the quiet sadness that was settling around me. A quiet, deep kind of grief. Not loud, not angry, just heavy and full of memory. And in that moment, I understood that this was a goodbye. Not just to a house, but to a chapter of life that could never come back. I live in a small town, one where everyone knows everyone's business, and gossip drifts through the air like dandelion seeds. My children had grown up here, and for years we had summers at the beach house. My husband, God rest his soul, loved the ocean. He would sit on the porch at sunset, drink his tea, and tell me stories from when he was young. After he passed, the house became my sanctuary. I spent mornings walking along the sand, collecting shells, and listening to the waves crash against the shore. It was where I felt closest to him, where I could feel his presence in the rustling of the trees and the gentle lapping of water. My son and I are close, but life has changed us. He married a woman I respect, but she's different from the people I know. Organized, practical, no nonsense, and a little impatient. She didn't grow up with Sam between her toes or evenings filled with fireflies and lullabies. To her, the house was a property. To me, it was home. I remember that afternoon when she came over to talk about selling it. She had that look in her eyes, the one people get when they think they know what's best. She explained the process, the buyers, the paperwork. I nodded, smiled, and listened. Every word felt like a stone being placed on my chest. The truth is, I had always imagined I would be the last to leave. I had dreamed of one more summer, one more season where I could hear the laughter of grandchildren running across the porch. But life, it seemed, had other plans. And so I stood there quietly, letting them speak, letting them plan, letting them take a piece of my heart without a fight. I walked through the rooms that evening, touching the walls, the furniture, everything that had witnessed our lives. Each photo, each framed memory, each scratch on the wood told a story. I whispered to myself, "Thank you for keeping us together, for letting us live, for letting us love." The days that followed were slow. I stayed mostly in my room, packing small things that I could take with me. The house felt empty in ways I hadn't noticed before. The rooms echoed with silence, and the air smelled faintly of salts and old wood. I tried to stay calm, tried to tell myself it was just a building, but every corner, every hallway reminded me of what I was losing. I remember a morning when I was in the kitchen, watching the sunrise paint the ocean pink and gold. My son walked in quietly. "Mom, I know this is hard," he said, his voice low, "but we're doing this for you too. It's complicated, but it's better this way." I looked at him and smiled, trying to hide the ache in my chest. "I know," I whispered, "but the truth is, I didn't know." Nothing felt right. It wasn't about the money or even the buyers. It was about memories, about roots, about knowing that a place that had seen my life unfold would now belong to strangers. The tension grew in small ways, a disagreement over which items to keep, which letters to save. I wanted to hold on to everything, even the smallest trinkets, while they tried to be practical. I remember saying, "These letters are all I have left of him." And she replied, softly but firmly, "Mom, you can keep them. The rest can go." And I knew then it wasn't about the things at all. It was about letting go, about accepting that life moves forward and that I couldn't stop it. Yet the sadness was real. It was quiet, like a shadow that followed me everywhere. One evening, I found myself standing on the porch, looking at the waves, feeling the wind whip through my hair. I remembered every summer, every story, every laugh. I closed my eyes and let myself cry softly, tears blending with the salty breeze. I didn't want anyone to see. I didn't want to make it harder for them, but the release was necessary, and in that moment, I felt a small measure of peace. It was the night before the sale that things truly hit me. I sat on the porch in the dark, the house silent around me. The sky was heavy with clouds, and the ocean seemed to echo the turmoil in my heart. I thought about the summers I'd spent here, the love that had filled every room, and the family that had grown under this roof. Then I heard a soft knock on the door. It was my son. He sat beside me quietly. "Mom," he said, "I didn't want it to be like this. I wanted it to feel easier. I wanted you to feel like it's still your home, even if you don't own it anymore." I took a deep breath, the weight of everything pressing down. I wanted more time, just a little longer," I whispered. He nodded, understanding, holding my hand. "I know, and I'm sorry. I really am." We sat in silence, the sound of the rain and waves mixing together, a lullaby of endings and beginnings. In that moment, I realized that the house was not the home. The people, the love, and the memories made it so. No one could take that away. And I understood that sometimes love means letting go. I spent the night walking through the rooms, touching every familiar surface, breathing in the air one last time. I whispered to the photographs, the furniture, the memories, "Thank you for being a part of my life." And as I drifted into a quiet sleep on the old couch, I felt a strange mix of sadness and calm. I was letting go, but I was also carrying everything inside me. The next morning, they came to finish the sale. The buyers were kind, gentle people who promised to care for the house. I showed them around, pointing out the small things, the quirks, the memories. They listened politely, smiling, unaware of the oceans of history the walls held. I stayed calm. I smiled. I poured tea and shared stories about the summers, the laughter, the fireflies, the rainstorms. And in doing so, I realized something important. The house would change hands, yes, but the love, the memories, and the life it had held could never be sold. I watched my son and daughter-in-law handle the practical things, the paperwork, the keys, and I felt a lightness in my chest. Not because it was easy, but because I had faced the end and survived. I had remembered that the people mattered more than the place. Later, I walked to the beach one last time. The tide was low, the sky a soft gray and the wind gentle. I let my feet sink into the wet sand, thinking of every summer, every laugh, every story. And I whispered a quiet goodbye, not to the house, but to the chapter of life it represented. I knew I would carry it inside me forever. As we left, I took one last look at the house, its walls bathed in the morning light. A part of me ached, yes, but a part of me felt a quiet gratitude for the life I had lived there, for the love I had felt, for the memories that would never fade. I drove away slowly, the road stretching out before us, the sea behind, and I thought, perhaps this is what it means to grow older, to cherish what was, accept what is, and make room for what will be. I leaned back in my seat, closed my eyes, and let the quiet wash over me. Life moves forward, and sometimes letting go is the most loving thing we can do. And somewhere deep inside, I knew that the love, laughter, and life of that beach house would always be with me, like a soft light in the heart, guiding me through all the days to come.